What's up, guys, and welcome to GameScript, looking at the New Orleans Saints versus the Green Bay Packers. It's a Monday night football game, and it's likely to be a blowout in favor of the Packers. And I'm going to build lineups for that on DraftKings for showdown contests, and we'll figure out how to handle a situation like this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at PumaCom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching GameScript, looking at Monday Night Football between the New Orleans Saints and the Green Bay Packers. We got a 42 total on this one. Green Bay are 2-touchdown favorites. They're playing in Green Bay, and New Orleans has basically been decimated. They have nothing to play for, and Green Bay is playing for, still playing for a playoff spot. They're likely to get into the playoffs, but they're still playing for that spot. So make sure to hit the like button. I'm looking for 30 likes to put out my favorite picks in the comment section later on, closer to lock, once we have all the ownership information and stuff like that. And make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm close to 1,400. I just need about 30 more, I believe. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That way you can sign up for the alerts for when these shows go out. And, we're looking at like I said, a playoff situation for Green Bay. We'll switch over to the playoff scenarios here. So if we're looking at Green Bay, they have a 99% chance of making the playoffs. They're the sixth seed right now. They're basically in the playoffs. I think if they win this game, they probably clinch it along those lines. So the Saints are just a terrible team this year. They are decimated with injuries. It's very likely that the Green Bay Packers are going to run away with this one. It's not really like they're playing with Saints are playing with a backup quarterback. They're missing Alvin Kamara. They just traded their top cornerback, and their other top cornerback is injured. We'll go over and look at the injury situation for these teams real quick. I'll start off with the with the Saints. So if you watch the show regularly, you know the drill. I usually go through the injuries. We go through the player pool, decide who we like to keep in our player pool for DraftKings Showdown contests, and then on top of that, we're going to build some lineups. And this process is important. It helps us to figure out good captain options. If you watched the show yesterday, we had almost a hit with our captain option. We had McMillan as our captain, and he scored one touchdown, almost had a second touchdown, but it got stripped from him right as they were landing to the ground, and somehow the Dallas defender ended up with the ball. But it would have been a huge night if he had caught that ball, for our 5% owned captain. And then a couple nights ago, we had Isaiah Likely as our captain. I put a recap video of that up with the YouTube shorts, so make sure to check out that if you haven't already. But basically, big weekend for projecting stuff on Showdown contest. Built the winning lineup with the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game on the show. And if you watch and you build along with us on the show, then you likely did very well. That lineup ended up shipping the main DraftKings contest. So this one, we're looking at the injury situation with New Orleans. Kamara, like I said, is out. Derek Carr is out. You got Bub Means. He might be coming back from IR. Keep an eye on that situation. Shaheed on IR. Olave on IR. Taysom on IR. You got even like the several offensive linemen on IR. Ryan Ramczyk is out. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is questionable, and that's the state of this team because MVS is their best receiver. If we're looking at the injury situation to the defense, Paulson Adebo is out. we got several guys on IR as well, and then they just traded Marshawn Lattimore. So they're basically like a team like that's put together with bubble gum right now. So Green Bay, and they're playing in Green Bay, so they're going to be miserable playing in cold Green Bay. They're a dome team playing the South, and now they have to go to Green Bay with nothing to play for. So it's going to be a miserable game probably for the Saints. They probably will want to get out of there, but they're going to try to win, obviously. But there's not a ton of hope there for the Saints this week. For Green Bay, Musgrave's still on IR. Marshawn Lloyd is out. Jordan Morgan, right guard depth, is on IR. Let's see. Quay Walker. This is important for the run game of the Saints. Quay Walker is out. Jair Alexander is questionable, but he's been practicing all week. Evan Williams is questionable. Bullard is out. That's the nickelback, so that's a situation for the slot of the Saints as well. So when we're building our lineups, we'll be able to kind of pinpoint a couple of those guys on the Saints that might have opportunity tonight. But I'll be honest with you, like it's probably going to be like a 5-1 build situation. The backup quarterback is Spencer Rattler. He's not a very good quarterback, and he's got to go against Green Bay, who's been playing pretty well lately. So it's going to be a rough situation for the Saints. The question is going to be, which Saint do we want in our lineup? Primarily, Spencer Rattler. Like I said, he hasn't really done much. We get a look at his flex price is 8,600. Kamara is out, so that's going to be good for Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller will likely get the all of the workload for the running game on the Saints. He had 9 attempts last week for 46 yards as a backup. Kamara was still in there. Kamara got banged up in that game. A couple weeks ago, he had 10 attempts. He had 3 and 6 also. But Kendre Miller's an interesting story. The head coach that got fired put him on IR for no reason. The head coach just hated Kendre Miller for some reason. He was complaining that Kendre was always hurt, but now that coach is out, and like Miller is going to be the starter this week. Josh Jacobs probably going to be the highest owned captain. Good reason for that. It's probably going to be a situation where we're trying to figure out how to build our lineups differently with Josh Jacobs in the captain. So he's been on a tear. Especially since the bye week, he's just been running a ton. I was reading Rich Rebar's article. He was talking about the efficiency of Jordan Love has gone way up since they started running the ball more and balancing off that offense. And Josh Jacobs was beneficiary to that, as well as Jordan Love. We might as well just put him in the captain now. Jordan Love, like I said, he's been pretty efficient recently. He's had a couple, few good DraftKings performances the last few weeks. Nothing crazy. He's been sluggish all year, but keep in mind he got injured in the beginning of the year, the first game of the season. He got hurt in that game versus the Eagles. He missed a few games when he came back. He had that 34-point game. He had a 26-point game, but then he's kind of tailed off this year. He hasn't been the same Jordan Love as last year, but they made some adjustments after the bye week, so he's been back on target recently. Jaden Reed likely to be targeted tonight. Like, he is the main target in the type of defense that the Saints are running. So Jaden Reed should get at least opportunity tonight. The problem with these receivers is going to be the volume situation. How much volume are they getting? But Jaden Reed, we can make a case for Jaden Reed as one of our receivers if we wanted to start one. Dubs has he came off a concussion, I believe, a few weeks ago. He had 2 touchdowns last week. If you watched the show, we talked him up. It was another GameScript show against Seattle. Dubs, not really high on Dubs this week, just based on volume concerns. But he's a touchdown or bust type of guy, and we got the touchdown on that last slate. Christian Watson's likely to get the biggest target share. He's been getting about a 20% target share. He's probably been the most consistent, wide receiver on the Packers the last few weeks as far as the targets and the opportunity that he's been getting. He's gotten 67, 114, 56 yards. Had that 150-yard game against Chicago. So he is coming around. Like for a while there, Christian Watson was always hurt or always just questionable and just not very reliable. But he's coming around just in time for the playoffs, which is good. Valdez-Scantling is listed as questionable, so keep an eye on his status because that's going to be important. He's basically the only receiver that they have that is not replacement level, and even that's debatable. So he had a few big weeks with Derek Carr, with Spencer Rattler. I don't think he did too much with Spencer Rattler though. It's going to be a rough situation for the Saints passing game this week. Packers defense definitely in play. Tucker Kraft, another touchdown or bust guy. It's going to depend on the volume and his opportunity with the limited volume that they're going to get in the passing game this week. But on top of that, the Saints are giving up 10.7 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position, so it's a decent matchup for them. It's a middling matchup. The best matchup looks like take your pick against this Saints defense. The slot receivers versus the defense getting 15.1 DraftKings points. The wideouts are getting 25.7, and the running backs are getting 23.6. Quarterback is the only one who has not scored a lot against the Saints. They're only getting 15.7 DraftKings points, but maybe that's has to do with them needing to run the ball so much against the Saints. McManus will be in play as the kicker for Green Bay. I would imagine that he'll get at least a couple opportunities. They shouldn't have any trouble running on the ball. They probably won't have any trouble scoring on on the Saints either. So the Saints kicker, I'm not sure how interested I am in the Saints kicker. I don't know how much opportunity they're even going to get. I don't know if they're going to be able to move the ball against the Packers. But, Saints kicker, 10 DraftKings points last week against Washington, 10 a few weeks ago. He's been getting his opportunities. So Saints kicker could be in play. Juwan Johnson's probably the guy I'm most interested in. The Packers are giving up 13.4 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. Juwan Johnson, obviously with Taysom out, is the primary tight end. In the weeks that Spencer Rattler was playing, it looked like he got like 5 and 6 targets. So he's had decent opportunity with Rattler. So Juwan Johnson is a guy that I have interest in this week. Wicks, just the volume situation. If we get to a point where we need the salary relief and Wicks is the guy at the top of the list, that's where I'd use Wicks. Jamal Williams, not sure how much usage he's going to get. Saints D, not really interested in the Saints D. Kevin Austin, I believe, is the other receiver. 3 targets last week, 5 targets the week before that, 3 targets the week before that. So he's been getting volume. He just hasn't done anything with it. So Kevin Austin is the guy, maybe we can keep on there as our sole Saint. Like if we're putting only one Saint in our lineups and we need that salary relief. Kevin Austin looks like he's getting the most volume down here. Foster Moreau, 4 targets last week. So another tight end to potentially plug in there. Let's take a look at snap counts for the Saints receivers just to get an idea. All right, so if I'm looking at the Saints, Mason Tipton did not have any. Kevin Austin had a 41% snap share. Pettis had a 26% snap share. Cedric Wilson had a 20% snap share. MVS had a 43% snap share. So it's basically MVS and Kevin Austin. And then after that, it's like Dante Pettis, Cedric Wilson, just a bunch of journeymen on this team. But Austin and MVS are probably the guys that we want to have the most interest in. Let's check out their tight end snap shares real quick. Snap shares on the tight ends. We got 35% Moreau and 40% Juwan Johnson. So that's the snap shares for the Saints. Not sure what happened to Tipton. Tipton was a guy that was doing pretty good in the beginning of the season, but he's been inactive lately. No, I shouldn't say he was doing good in the early season, but he was getting opportunity. Cedric Wilson, guy that we saw getting 26% or around that 20 range. Only one target the last few weeks. His biggest week, he got 7 targets against Denver. Ended up with 17 DraftKings points that week. Pettis, the other guy we saw, 5 targets last week against Washington. That's significant. Pettis, former 49er. He had a lot of hype when he started his career and just never accumulated or led to anything. So he's been a journeyman ever since, and now he's on the Saints. Other than that, maybe the backup running back for the Packers. Let's find out who that is. Backup running back is Chris Brooks. Let's see how much opportunity Brooks has been getting. Brooks got only 1 attempt last week. He also had a target. They were playing Seattle, and they were blowing out Seattle 30-13, and he still didn't get opportunity. This might be a different situation, though, where if they have it pretty in hand, they're not going to be able to – they're not going to worry about the Saints coming back on anything like you would with Seattle. And Wilson is the other guy. Wilson had 3 attempts for 9 yards. Let's check out the snap shares with these running backs on the Packers here. Reason I'm doing this is obviously if they're blowing them out and they decide to rest Josh Jacobs, then it's a potential that the backup running back will get a decent amount of work. And Brooks was getting 16% snap share. Manuel Wilson was getting 6%. And that has been the case for a few weeks now. Brooks has been looking like the backup here. So Wilson or Brooks, you could probably go either way on those guys, but I'd probably go with Wilson. I mean with Brooks. So let's just put Brooks in there because assuming that this is going to be a blowout game, not many people might have Josh Jacobs. We're trying to get a little bit different here. Josh Jacobs and the captain with Brooks as a flex guy. Let's go with Love because we're looking for volume here. And I'm going to go with Watson too. For our Saint, I'm just going to go ahead and put Johnson in there. It's going to leave us with 7,600. Leaves us. I probably don't want 2 Saints in my lineups. So Packers D would be another good option there. So, I mean, this lineup pretty much builds itself. We leave money on the table. We might be a little bit different. It's tough to say, but Josh Jacobs in the captain, Chris Brooks as his backup, Jordan Love, Christian Watson, Juwan Johnson. If we wanted to, we could swap out Watson too for Reed. and we still in that same situation where we can put in that Packers D, gives us a rotational situation with a core. If we wanted to stick with Watson and maybe take out Johnson and put in Kendre, it leaves us with 2,600, and that leaves us with options like CJ Wilson, Dante Pettis, like I was talking about. If the Packers are running away with it, you might see Heath and Melton get more opportunity. So those might be good guys to plug in too. Um, Probably want to go 5-1 in this one in favor of Green Bay. But if you wanted to go a little bit different, then putting multiple Saints in is a way to get different. We can't get our guy Austin in this one, but like I said, we have Wilson and Pettis as options. So that would be, like a running back and a pass catching option on the Saints. If we don't think that Love is going to get enough points in this one because they're running away with it, we could put in that Packers defense here. Uh, then we have Kendre Miller. Then we got 7K to put in Valdez Scantling. If we wanted to put him in along with Miller, we could put in Tucker Kraft or Brandon McManus or someone like that, or Johnson. Miller and Johnson. If you wanted to put two Saints in, Miller and Johnson, and leaving a bunch of money on the table might be the way to go. You could swap out Watson for Reed. So a few different options there. Jacobs probably going to be the most likely captain. It's going to be tough to get away from him. But if you wanted to get away from him, let's say that maybe the Packers D, we want to go with the captain. Let's get Jacobs in there. Leaves us with 9,700. Then we can get Reed in there as well. Or you could get Rattler in there. Maybe Rattler runs the ball a decent amount in this one, and then we got Kendre Miller in there too. Gives us a few options there with the Packers D and the captain. If we want to put a guy like Kendre in the captain, let's say the Saints are a little bit more competitive. Let's get rid of Brooks. Let's put Love in there. We got Watson. 2,800 is what that leaves us with. I would probably still go with Johnson in this one. Leaves us with 1,300. So we got Wilson and Pettis as options in that one. That's a 3 Saint build. You also have Heath and Melton as options. If the Saints were going to win this one, I think that their defense is going to have to make a play. So let's get that Saints defense in here. This is one for the multi entry situation or the large field tournaments. So let's get the Saints D in there. We got Kendre, the Saints D. Jordan Love is playing a bit of catch up. We got Juwan Johnson in there. Let's take out Love and let's put in Spencer. And that leaves us with 11.5. Still a little short of Josh Jacobs. We're like 100 short of getting Josh Jacobs in there. So what is another option down here for Kevin Austin? We could take out Johnson and put Austin in there. And that way we'd be able to get Josh Jacobs in there too. But that gives a few looks at ways that we could go with a couple different builds. But maybe we can do something like this. Let's take out Saints D. Let's say that the Packers, we stick with our game script, and they do well. Let's get the Packers in there. So Green Bay's doing well, but the Saints are given enough volume to Kendre so that he is the captain option. I think in that situation, Josh Jacobs is getting work taken away from him by the backup running back, who is Brooks. Where's he at? Let's get Brooks in there. Leaves us with 8K. And in that situation, we could put Valdez Scantling in there. Or we could go with like Tucker Kraft and leave some money on the table, or Brandon McManus or something. I think Brandon McManus would make sense in this one because it's explaining why a Packer isn't in the captain, because they're just not scoring touchdowns. They're running the ball. Maybe Brooks poaches a touchdown from Jacobs, but Jacobs gets the yardage. Packers D, maybe Packers D has a turnover after a long drive, and they do a pick six or something, and that takes another drive away from the Packers, limits their volume even further. Watson, the only guy that's getting any sort of work on Green Bay, they get a big enough lead, and Brooks comes in to kind of take over. Kendre Miller stays active throughout the game. And maybe we get a guy like Kraft in there. Kraft poaches a random touchdown too. So we got maybe Kraft scores a touchdown in this one. Jacob scores a couple touchdowns in this one. Jacob scores a touchdown. Packers D scores a touchdown. Christian Watson gets some yardage and PPR type points. You can swap him out for Reed if you want. If we swap him out for Reed, that leaves us with 7,100. And then maybe we got the kicker in there too, or Kraft. And that would justify why Jacobs isn't the captain. Green Bay's still winning this one handily, but Kendre Miller is getting more volume, and maybe he scores a touchdown and just has a lot of PPR volume or something like that. So there's a few different ways to go, guys. Make sure to hit that like button. Give me the 30 likes when we put out the shorter video later on, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm looking for 1,400 subscribers, and I need about 30 more or so to get there. So help me get there. And if you benefited at all from the shows this weekend, where nailed the game script on the Baltimore game, and then last night had some good analysis on the Tampa Bay game. Tampa Bay didn't get the win, but at least we nailed the potential captain. Didn't have Brandon didn't do an Aubrey captain build. Like I think I did a build with the other kicker in the captain. Or maybe that was a different show, but didn't work out. But at least would have cashed using McMillan in the captain. So hopefully you guys made some money off of that one, and would have been a huge night if he'd caught that touchdown in the damn end zone, but it was stripped from him as they were going to the ground, and ended up working against us. But this week, let's hit it with this Saints Packers game. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later on.